Come back in and out. We have Kate York from Jeppesen and Keith Foreman from Universal. And today we'll be covering South America, Central America, the Caribbean, the Middle East, and Africa. As for Keith, he grew up in Europe as a military brat. His father is a retired Air Force. He's been in aviation for over 20 years and served in the Middle East, Europe, and the U.S. as an air traffic controller in the U.S. Air Force.
Good afternoon. I'm Keith Foreman. I want to come today and speak about, give a broad overview of operations throughout the Middle East. I'll talk a little bit about Africa. I love the Middle East. I lived there for a number of years, primarily in Turkey, and I've traveled all around the region. I love the people, the food, and I love the culture. So, and I've done a lot of flights throughout that region, so I know a little bit about how those folks operate and some of the restrictions and things that you need to be aware of before you operate there. These are some of the countries that require landing and overflight permits. Basically, it includes all the countries within the Middle East. There are a couple of exceptions. For example, Cyprus, for example. If you're a European-based aircraft operator registered in a European country, you don't require an overflight permit, for example. The UAE, United Arab Emirates, they normally don't require an overflight permit unless you're flying on one or two specific airways. But so for the most part, everybody else requires an overflight or landing permit under normal circumstances. The first country that comes to mind is Israel. Israel's in a bad spot geographically because if you're in Israel and you want to leave Israel, you can't leave you can't overfly any Arab country, with a couple of exceptions, and you cannot come out of an Arab country to land into Israel. There are two exceptions. Jordan has a special corridor between the two countries, and on a case-by-case, they will allow you to fly from Israel to Jordan, and then you have to land if you're going, say, eastbound, and then proceed on across the other Arab countries. That's the only way you're going to go that direction. Or you can go into Cairo, and then from there you can proceed on to where you're going. To land in Israel, they have an application process that generally takes about a week, give or take, and it has to be completed by the operator themselves. It can be submitted by a third party, but it has to be completed by an operator. And generally takes about, like I said, about a week. And before you arrive into Israel, they have certain airports that you can arrive, even from the Western countries, United States, Europe, that are approved to accept flights into Israel. Before your stop, before you get into Israel, you have to make contact with the Israeli authorities, and they'll give you some kind of password, and you'll have to know that password before you enter the Israeli FIR, because ATC will ask you for it. If you don't have it, they'll turn you back. They also have something that I'm not sure they're still enforcing, but generally if you're staying for more than 72 hours in Israel, you have to get permission to stay beyond that. Another process you'll have to go through to get a stay there longer than 72 hours. Overflight is not permitted. A few exceptions, but for the most part, no. And if you look at where it sits and the size of the country, it doesn't really matter anyway. And that's all then. Okay. Hitting the wrong button. Okay, Turkey. It's one of my favorite countries. Slots required just about all the airports except for one. And there are no direct flights to and from Cyprus for political reasons. Oddly enough, though, you can fly over Turkey to get to Cyprus, or from Cyprus over Turkey, but you can't fly from Cyprus to Turkey or Turkey direct to Cyprus. I don't know why that is, but that's what the rule is. In Turkey, the main airport a lot of people use, I'm going to pick a tech stop, say for example Istanbul. In the past, everyone's been stopping at Ataturk Airport, which is the main airport of Istanbul, and they've recently denied or prohibited tech stops into that airport because they have the newer one that opened about 3 years ago. And it's on the European side of Turkey, across the Bosphorus Sea there. And they're making all tech stops go through that airport now instead of the major airport there in Istanbul.